Hello and welcome to another session of Living Life with Vis Mona.
Where we inspire couples to live an abundant and magical life.
We share our stories and our teachings and basically what we learn through life. We share skills and tools to help you through your journey. So today, do let us know, where are you in the world, what time it is for you, wherever you are, and let us know what's going on in your life and in your part of the world at the moment.
So we have an interesting topic this week. Well, it's actually a theme for the month of March, is right, Mona?
Yep.
Which is creativity. So it's interesting that creativity is not what most people think creativity is. You know, people think creativity equals being an artist, being a musician, being somebody who's famous. That's actually not necessarily true. Those people are creative, absolutely, because they create something new all the time. But it's more about doing something different, doing something out of the ordinary, and getting different results. Would you agree with that?
I guess for me, creativity isn't just about famous people. It's what we may have grown up thinking, that creativity is all about those in the arts and crafts, those creating things with their hands. And very often that was what was associated with creativity. But creativity is in the mind first. It's about how you deliver something, whether it's a program or a course, how you write a book. Although, writing a book has always been classed in that category. But it's developing an idea, creating, a scientific theory, for example. That's also creativity.
Creativity could be just you in the kitchen preparing a beautiful meal, or just taking what you have in your fridge and making a beautiful salad. So that's creativity. So it's not what people always think it is. Everybody is creative.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. Everybody is innately creative. It's how much of that creativity do we allow others to see?
So how do you express your creativity every day?
So I did it in multiple ways. Firstly, if I'm with a client, finding solutions. So finding solutions, interesting enough, is a creative process, because you're having to think differently about what you're confronted with, or what solutions need to be crafted for whatever you're working on. So in that sense, I get to be creative in finding solutions. Dealing with people, you're dealing with a whole host of different people all the time. So the method of how you speak to them is creative. How do you get buy-in? So there's so many different angles you have to be creative to work in an environment where there's multiple people, or big teams of people. And then I love writing about food. So for me, tasting different things and trying new restaurants, that's creativity again. And then writing about it, that really tests my creativity in something I never thought I'd be doing. It's writing. So that's interesting.
That's an interesting one for you, because in school you didn't enjoy creative writing. Do you remember we had those subjects, creative writing, in school? I'm not sure in other parts of the world if you also had that subject in school, but not many people actually enjoyed creative writing.
I mean, I used to take a shortcut in school with creative writing in one of my grades, and I used to write poetry. But I mean, it's just more like rhyme than poetry. But I thought maybe that's a way to get out of creative. But I guess that's a creative thing as well. If you can write poetry, and again, maybe I thought my poetry was bad, but who knows? Maybe it was good work.
Okay, this is a revelation for me. I have been married to Vis for 27, going on to 28 years this year. And it's the first time I'm hearing on air that Vis used to write poetry. So, like my son always says, he's sometimes very surprised, because I'm always saying to Vis, wow, I have never known that about you in this day and age. Like, it was just a couple of weeks ago, I said the same thing to Vis. And my son says, you mean you've been married for that many years and you still don't know anything, you don't know things about each other. Well, that's the surprise of this. Not everything gets revealed, and you find out, like I say, almost 28 years later, I found out that Bess wrote poetry in school. Wow, that's incredible.
So it's not that you didn't know, but it's just so many facets to me that maybe I thought it wasn't important, because again, I didn't think writing poetry was a big deal or that my work was any good. So I guess that's why I didn't share it, and I'm talking about the past now.
So I'm quite tickled.
Not that I can
Yeah,
remember what the poetry
I'm quite
was.
tickled. That's what I was also going to say. I'm quite tickled right now. I'm not sure about you, because for me to put poetry and verse in the same sentence,
You'd be surprised.
I am. I'm sure you can see that I'm surprised, because poetry and verse in the same sentence, nope. I'm like really, really challenged to experience it, because I've not even heard verse recite a poem in my life in his space. So imagine, we've been married for 27 and a half years, but we've known each other for 30 some odd years. So can you understand why I'm that surprised? And yes, we get lots revealed on these sessions with all of you.
Well, then I'm going to take up your challenge, and maybe one of the things I'll do is write poetry and write a poem, and I'll show you. So
Oh, that'll be
your
cool.
challenge of doing something creative every day, or just doing something creative.
Yeah.
That's something you shared with your community.
Exactly, because that's just it. What is it that you may have been hiding? And I guess interesting, isn't it? That when you are in a relationship, you don't really know everything about the other person unless they're willing to share it with you. And yes, after 27 and a half years and 30 some odd years, that's married, and 30 some odd years being together, there was not a single moment that arose throughout that time for Vis to reveal that he used to write poetry in school for creative writing.
Well, I guess what that says is there's a lot of hidden and latent talent
Oh,
waiting to be revealed.
or a lot of hidden truths that Vis has kept from all of us. Because I'm sure you did not even realize that Vis writes poems. You know he loves going and tasting food and doing food reviews, but writing poetry? Oh, this is going to be so funny. This is going to be interesting.
I love jazz music, for example.
Well, we do know that. And most of the people who know you would know that. Now, what do you think about one of the things that I shared with my community? This whole thing about creativity with couples. What is it in your mind? Like, why is it so important in a relationship for creativity to exist? And how do you see creativity existing in a relationship?
Lovely question, yeah. And, the thing is, people talk about experience. So if you live the same life 50 times, well, if you lived on 50 years, but you did the same thing every day, just meant you lived 1 year 50 times. Doesn't mean you've had 50 years of experience, 50 years of living. It's just a repetition of what you've had in the past. So for me, creativity in a relationship is just about spicing things up, making the relationship, with the marriage or a friendship, or even a romantic relationship, exciting, and just fanning those flames and keeping that relationship alive. So that's what it is about, just surprising each other and doing things to enhance and build and grow that relationship, because relationships are never static.
Exactly. So think about this, right? When we are in a relationship, and I love this one because when we go to a restaurant, I love people watching is kind of a fascinating thing, I'm sure, for many people. And when you see people going to the same restaurant every week or every month, however often they go, and they would each have the same meal, they would sit in the same spot, and they would have it at the same time, right? Now, can you feel that already? There's not much movement in there. And I guess it's the same thing for holidays, right? It's repeatedly to the same place at the same time of the year, doing the exact same thing for the same number of days. Nothing shifts either way. And it's like, what happens then in that space? It's almost like this kind of nice to be in a space, but is there any growth happening in that space? Because that's what happens with creativity. Vis says spicing things up. Yeah, that's part of it, but it's about growth. Because every time there's movement, every time there's a bit of difference. Yes, I know sometimes you go to a restaurant and you love to have a specific dish on the menu. But once in a while, it's to spice things up there. It's try something different, right? Because spice always adds a bit more flavor and zing and a bit of heat and fire into the mixture. So just think about that, even going to a place. I mean, we love certain places. We love going there, especially in the Midlands. We love going to those places, but that's not the only place we go to every opportunity we get to go somewhere. I mean, if you look at the last year, we chose to go to a different part of the country. We went in the opposite direction of where we'd normally go to because that's where we were being called to. And each time we went to a different location. And I guess, would we love to go back to each of those? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So a creative way that we handle that is if we'd love to go to a place, then we would extend, or we'll break our stay up between two places and go back to the place we love and try something new. So again, that's the creative process of trying something new, but still being able to do something you love from the past, just because you want to go back and experience that. And, we have the sense of family when we go to places. So we love going back to almost to visit family, so that's what makes it very special.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And you're right. It's about, seeing a couple go, and for me, it's about people go to a restaurant, same restaurant, and both order the same thing.
Now, for someone who's a food reviewer, I think that may be your bee in the bonnet kind of thing, right? It's not about judgment.
Yeah, no, sure.
Yeah, it's not about judgment. So I think please understand that. Yes, please do continue on that one.
Well, the thing is, like when Mona and I go out for dinner, we always have different dishes. I don't think we've ever ordered the same dish.
Except if there was a tasting menu,
but even then,
exactly,
we'd have all the options on the tasting menu.
Precisely. Because do you remember whether we were at the tasting room, whether we were at Mosaic restaurant, wherever there is more than one option on a tasting menu for starters and mains, we've always chosen to have one of each. And eventually, how many different flavors did we have at the tasting room? I think it was like about 18 or so different flavor combinations that evening, like 18 different items and dishes that we tasted that day. So you'd wonder, where do those two put all that food? Yes, people keep asking us that question.
Yeah.
And I guess that's
the mystery
it.
Of the century.
Yeah, that is the mystery of the century. If you want to know what creativity does, yes, it keeps you trim and slim. So when our minds are so curious, so for me, that's the other thing about creativity. When your mind is curious, and I love that quote that I posted yesterday about, people see the same thing. And the whole thing about creativity is about thinking differently about what it is you see. So just think about it like you shared about being with your client and finding solutions. Remember, as the client, or if you're in something, your mind is focused in a specific direction. That's why you bring in new people, you bring in new perspectives, because they would be able to, although we're all seeing something in the same way, they may think differently about how to work with a specific issue, or if you term it a problem or a challenge.
Right? I had one of those days yesterday where things did not go according to plan from the morning. And all I could do was chuckle and say, how do we solve all of these challenges and just have a fun day at the end of it? And when we did, it was a really exciting day. Whereas you could have chose to say, no, it must be according to this plan and get upset about it. So I just chose, let's find creative ways to get around what we did. And we did. We ended up doing everything we planned to do, even though the whole plan went topsy-turvy.
Absolutely. And I guess that's what it is. Creativity helps not just you as an individual to grow, but it also helps you as a couple, it helps you as a family, because when that creative juices are flowing, because you give others permission around you to do the same. Because if we are not in the creative flow, it means we're stagnant. And you know what happens with water that is standing? Because that's what it's all about. Creativity is flow. If water is standing still, it becomes diseased. It becomes negative for us instead of it actually being beneficial to us. So it's the same with this whole process of growth. And if we don't allow the creativity to flow through us, then that energy gets stuck in our bodies if we don't do something with our creative energy.
So I know that two things that we do that are extremely creative and helps us grow all the time. Because I love the fact that you're constantly talking about growth and creativity together. Whether you're a couple, whether you're an individual, the purpose of life is to grow, and you want that. So going to restaurants just means that creativity allows going to different restaurants, trying different things, trying different cuisines, traveling the world and trying new foods. That just builds your own encyclopedia of food and people and different cultures. So you get this whole history lesson and a new knowledge base that you wouldn't have done if you didn't try the food. And secondly, I'm already tying the second part, which is travel. Traveling just broadens your mind, allows you to meet new people, learn new cultures, and just shows how different and diverse the world is, but how similar we are. And that's a growth experience again, but being creative by choosing to be somewhere different.
Yes.
And really, being accepting of people's cultures, and understanding that you don't want things to be the way you know it when you go to another foreign country.
Yeah.
It's about accepting and embracing what they are and what they have to offer and learning from that.
Yeah.
That's two really creative ways and simple ways of travel and food.
And I guess for me, there's one thing, and I have to admit it, right? Because we are here to be honest, is if you can make something in your own kitchen, don't go order that when you go to the restaurant, like fried eggs and toast, right? Unless it's in a buffet. But if you're going to an a la carte restaurant, order the thing that it'll take you some time to make at home. Ordering scrambled eggs and toast or ordering fried eggs and toast at a restaurant that has, for example, eggs Benedict, or it's got a special hash brown stack with halloumi and baby spinach and cherry tomatoes, or you have a haddock chowder. The reason why I'm saying that is if we stay in the comfort zone, then we're not even exploring when we go to a restaurant. And I guess I'm saying this because it's like whatever you can make at home. And Vis and I have quite a bit of challenges about that, because for me, I would rather not go to a restaurant because it's a waste of my time and my energy, because if you know me and my time, I can use it for so many other fascinating things. If I'm going to go to a restaurant and they're going to give me something that's the same thing or I can make at home, or I can make something better at home, this gets into a lot of trouble with me. Like, why did you even bother taking me there? Like, you want to go try it? Please go try it. But I want something exciting. I guess my life, it's like this process of evolution. We are evolving and changing at such a rapid rate. And it's almost like what was exciting yesterday may not be that way today. So I guess Vis sometimes gets upset that, okay, but I just wanted to go sit there. For me, it's like, I'd rather sit in my backyard, watch my dogs running around, looking at the birds flying around, than going to a restaurant and eating what I can make in my kitchen.
So I've learned better. Go on a recce and try out a new restaurant myself and know that what's on the menu will delight Mona before I even think of taking it.
Or better still, read the menu, right? Read the menu. For me, I can just look at a menu, and I guess this is how I am. Whether I go shopping for something, I can just walk into a store, and standing at the front of the door, I would tell you whether there would be something worthwhile for me to go through the store or not. And I guess that's my intuitive ability. I can stand there. So even if I look at a menu, I can tell you whether the menu is exciting or not. And that's how, you see, creativity helps you to not waste time. Because everything that we do and we in flow, we actually use what we have in an abundant way rather than in a wasteful way.
Well, there's another way to see this, in terms of, let's say you've never been to a restaurant before, you never saw the menu, but you walked in and you spoke to the owner or the chef and you found out what dishes they have. So curiosity is another way of creativity or another way of growing, but it must be an area that you want to grow your expertise,
Yes.
or that's really in tune with what you love to do.
Yes.
So I can understand that, not everything, me wanting to do that kind of thing doesn't intrigue you. And I totally understand that. I get it.
So for me, it has to be exciting. It has to be something that already sounds fun and fabulous. Like when we went to Egypt and we went to Abu Simbel and we saw this hut. There was a little bakery next door and they were just making the flatbreads that were coming out. This was a place where the locals would hang out. And in any other place, it would look like how our South African townships are, like where people are standing around in a small area. Not everybody would go there, but the most delicious food comes from there. So for me, that's exciting because what I know in places like that, like we had in Abu Simbel, is that it may be the simplest of dishes, but the taste, the flavor combinations from the simplicity of those meals that comes out there, that is what is exciting to me. And I guess that's what it's about. Creativity is about tapping into that thing which is who you are, right? Because like we said, going and doing something, it may not juice some of us to do certain things. I mean, not all of you want to go and do a food review. Sometimes you want to go sit and have a meal, and you just want to have a meal because that's what juices you, not to go and review a meal. And I know so many of you are that way. You go there to have a meal, to be with the people that you are with. And yet with this, it's like he loves reviewing food. So for him, that's what juices him up rather than just going and doing something else. For example, like me, learning juices me up, right?
Yeah, a lot of juicing going on today.
Absolutely. Because remember, my wealth coach taught me how to juice everything up.
And that's why we get to live a juicy life.
Exactly.
An abundant and juicy life. And that's why we share these things with everyone, because it's possible for anyone to live what we call an abundant and juicy life. It's just, and I think creativity is a huge part of living an abundant and juicy life. Just be creative. And for us, it's like traveling. It's surprising each other, just doing little things out of the ordinary. And I think if you think about one creative way, I know how much you love picnics. So the one Sunday morning I decided, okay, I'm going to surprise Mona today and do a picnic when she knows nothing about this. So I dashed off at lunchtime, when I got fresh bread, got some fresh meats. I think we had a few cheeses, and I knew we had a lot of little condiments and what do you call them?
I have no idea. It's your story.
Olives. I think bottled goodies that I could add to the spread of bread and cheeses and meat. And I created this whole platter. And we went out and we had a picnic on our lawn, and she was totally surprised. And I thought, just being a Sunday, I don't want to get back into the house. She just enjoyed it and loved staying there till it got dark.
So do you see what's more exciting for me? To sit in our backyard than to sit in a restaurant for hours and hours and hours.
Because that's the kind of person, you love your quiet space.
Exactly. But you
You
see,
love me time and alone time.
but this is it. For me, watching the clouds form, watching the birds soar into the sky, watching the butterflies flutter around, watching our dogs being playful and coming up and trying to sneak a little something from the picnic table. That's what makes me alive. Sitting around and in a formal environment, I can do it up to a point, but it's like for me, this is what is meaningful. And I guess that's what creativity is about. What's meaningful for you? And when you find that and when you lock into that, you'll notice that creativity isn't like a planned occasion. It just shows up in everything that you do. You just be creative in every essence that you show up in every day. And I guess for me, that's what the end result of it is connecting with that inner creativity that just oozes out of you in everything that you do.
And creativity is about just thinking about something that could surprise yourself or somebody else. And I mean, I'm sure you're surprised that you found a tub of candy floss on your desk. What was it, 2 days ago?
I wasn't surprised. I just realized, oh, there's because I saw the big bag of candy floss that Vis had brought into the house, and I'm like, okay, more sweet stuff. All right, it means I've got to eat more sugar now. Not that, and that will last me for like goodness knows how long, because that's what Vis loves doing, going out and shopping and buying things. You see, so that's what Vis does.
So to be creative, I found you a new flavor. What flavor was yours?
Hot chocolate. Can
So
you believe
I know
candy floss? Yes, if you
so
want
candy floss. Creative process. I saw candy,
Yes.
hot chocolate,
candy floss.
candy floss. I said,
Yeah.
okay, that'll be a surprise for you. So I know how you feel about sweet things,
Yeah.
but just I couldn't resist candy floss in a hot chocolate
yes.
flavor for somebody who enjoys hot chocolate.
Yes.
at
I thought
occasions.
that was quite interesting to have candy floss in a hot chocolate flavor. So I'm not sure where you are in the world and how many different flavors of candy floss you have. But here in South Africa, we have this really cool brand of candy floss, and they've got all different types of flavors, which is also pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I think we've shared enough about creativity with you today. You know, for you to see that creativity is not just has to be there in a work environment or in some kind of production environment. You can be sitting and enjoying a picnic. You could be driving to work. You could be reading a book. You could be delivering a keynote speech. It's look at how creativity can come into every little thing. Because that's what this life is about. It's about connecting to the creative forces that created all that's around us. So whether it is a scientific theory, whether it's a piece of art, whether it's a book that you're creating, or a beautiful cake, let your creativity shine through.
You know, I just read today about a rule called the 2-2-2 rule, and that might help people if you think, oh, I don't know when I'm going to do something creative, and this rule might come in handy. So it says 2-2-2, every 2 weeks, go out on a date night. Every 2 months, go away for a weekend. And every 2 years, go away for a week to a new location. And this is very much for couples to do something different, just following a simple 2-2-2 rule. I thought it was quite
so every 2 weeks, every 2 months, every 2 years. That is brilliant.
Yeah. So at least there's a minimum. So at least you know that there's a trigger. Oh, we haven't been away for a weekend in 2 months. Let's do something.
But wouldn't it be even more cool to actually schedule it?
Yeah.
So it's not something
Yeah.
that you think like, oh, 4 months have gone by and we haven't. It's almost like, this sounds pretty cool. 2 months from now, let's put it in our diary. Ooh, well, 2 weeks from now, then 2 months from now, let's plan to do, let's block out that weekend and do something. 2 years from now, what date is it going to be? Let's look at what's the perfect week for us. Because if you know me, I love working with a
schedulers gets
calendar
done.
and a scheduler. Yes, I love it.
You're a queen of planning. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I think we've given you enough for today to spark your creativity. Because remember, you don't have to be anyone special to be creative. You don't have to have any special skills to be creative. You just have to be you and allow your creativity to show
You were
up.
born creative. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let your creativity shine.
Yeah.
I think we've come to the end of today.
Yeah.
What we'd love for you to do is just share with us your thoughts on today's topic and what creativity means for you, or what creative ideas that you've done that you'd love to share with the community.
Absolutely. So until next time, ciao for now.
Bye.